Good afternoon, everyone. I am so thrilled to be here today with Ann Maree. This is our first of many series that we'll be doing of interviewing our retreat speakers. And she is one of our retreat speakers at the 2026 Women's Retreat. There's a link in the description of this interview that you can register and sign up. But she'll be speaking on something I'm really excited to talk about today. That is Follow Me, what submission is and what it is not. And I'm really hoping that today a lot of women are set free from maybe things that they're carrying that are heavy, and hearing and seeing more of God's heart for you in this, because we often know how much that is twisted and used against women in abuse. Before we get started, I'm going to let Ann Maree introduce herself, and I'm going to let you know we're only going to be live on YouTube. So I'm signing off of Facebook right now. Jump over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and watch. So Ann Maree, could you introduce yourself for us?
Hi. Yes, I can. Thanks, Lauren. I am excited about this topic. I have been for many years, and I am excited for the same reasons that you mentioned, and that is getting women free from what they've been taught about submission. But I am the executive director of HelpHer, which is a ministry that advocates for women in crisis in the church. And typically what we're doing is we're helping them navigate the response of the church to their report of abuse, either their own abuse in their own home or somewhere else, but also clergy sexual misconduct. And so we help walk alongside those women and help them navigate the responses that they're receiving. So yeah, that's what I am. I'm a mother and a grandmother and all that other stuff, but we don't have to get into that right now.
Wow, well, we appreciate what you're doing. That sounds like such a rewarding work to be walking alongside women. And we're excited that you'll be at our 2026 Women's Retreat in Lake Juneau. For those who are like, what is that? There's a link, like I said, in the post. Go learn more about it. It's April 30th and May 3rd. We would love to have you there. And today we're going to dive into our topic. Let's talk about it. Follow me, submission. All right, so let's talk about this. We're not going to give away our whole speech here. We want you to come and hear more about this at the retreat. But can you kind of give us an overview of tell me more about this? Like, what are you going to be sharing?
Yeah, it's going to be hard not to give away too much because I like to talk about this a lot. Well, one thing is that I like to frame this discussion up with a picture of watching two people waltz. Dancing has been used as a metaphor before about submission, but if you watch a waltz, there's something different about it. And I'm not going to say anything else about that. I'm just going to tell you, just go on YouTube and download some waltzes. Ed Sheeran's perfect. Anything that anybody's waltzing to with that's wonderful. And it'll just be a great afternoon if you do it. But anyway, so frame it in that thinking of a waltz. So years ago, I had a conversation with a young woman who I was helping, not in the context of what I'm doing right now, just kind of mentoring. And she worked for a Christian organization, and she was having a struggle with what she said was submitting to her leaders, submitting to her bosses. Now, I don't want to minimize that because we do work for our bosses and we do what they want us to do, basically, within reason, right? But the submission she was talking about was kind of more this all-encompassing, we submit to all men kind of thinking. And I thought, oh, where did she get that? Where is that from? So it sent me off on a path to discover. And through my doctorate, I did some research work on submission, what it is and what it's not. And so that's kind of what led me to this place.
Wow, I didn't realize you did work on this in your doctorate. Did you do your dissertation on this, or is it just part of your studying as you're getting your doctorate?
It ended up being an appendix in my dissertation because during the process, some of my professors said, well, what do you believe about submission? And I really want to say, I do believe it is complementary, but it has to be both ways. And what we've learned so far has been complementing men, and not a whole lot about men in the complementary way with women. And so I just dug into that, and doing a dissertation in my field, it was all theological. So I really poured into the scriptures about that.
Wow. Okay. I'm like, I want to sit down and have a long coffee conversation with you, but we can't do that today. That sounds amazing. Like, just to hear all those thoughts and the things that you've studied. So I heard you say something that was really interesting to me. What does it mean to men to compliment us as women? And maybe I'm saying that incorrectly, but I think I heard you say something like that. What does it look like? Let's start there. What is a men's role in this?
So funny you should ask. I did another actual section in my dissertation on what does scripture say about leadership. Because if we're going to talk about like a waltz, if it looks like a waltz, there's a lead and a follow. There is a lead and a follow in that relationship, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But what does the female submission look like in that relationship, and what does the male relationship look like? And so I went through the scriptures again, and I just tried to discern what is God's call for leadership, generally speaking, and if there was anything specifically speaking about the male role in leadership. Because once we can figure out what it says about what male leadership is, that will help us figure out what does the follow look like in that role. But I don't even think I'm going to get into that when we talk at the retreat, because that's just a whole other discussion. I'm glad to answer questions about what I've learned, but yeah, we won't touch on it too much.
Okay, well, that I'm like, wow, that sounds like a good conversation. Maybe we'll have that later here down the road. But let's talk about what you will be talking about at the retreat. So, what will you be sharing with us?
Well, okay, so some of the learnings that I would say were most influential in my thinking was something that one of my professors in my master's program used to say all the time, and especially as it relates to interpretation. He would say, context is king. In interpretation, context is king, meaning that's the guiding principle for how we interpret what we're reading in scripture. And so I asked the question, what did Paul think women needed to learn about submission in the early church? Because that's where we get our submission passages, right? Those are the ones that either get used against us or we've heard taught over and over in our circles. So what was he trying to, or Peter, what were they trying to convey a woman needed to learn about submission? And I'm not going to answer that question for you. You're going to have to come to the retreat and find that out. So that's a part of the context. And then what did she already know about submission? What did a woman in the New Testament know already about submission?
I
And so
think that's that's really important. That brings a lot of context and things.
it does. And that's where context is king. And so I'm not going to answer that question for you today. You can do your own study up until May and figure it out if you want to. And we'll have a great coffee together instead of me teaching, which would be even more fun. But so those are some of my questions. And then go ahead. I'll leave it at that.
Oh no, I'm over here like, wow, I want to be in this session. This is a lot to learn. Like, it's so good. And I think it's just a lot of women, most that we serve, have been through abuse, have had submission weaponized against them. I know I certainly have. I've had submission used against me to do really horrific things, and that really left me with a lot of trauma. And so I think of, even like when I hear the word submission, I have such a hard time. I feel like the trauma rising up in my body, and it's been years, 8 years, since I've been in that environment, but still I hold on to, oh my goodness, I'm so scared. What if I'm going to learn that I had to submit to evil? What would you say to that woman today that's watching and maybe feeling afraid, and feeling afraid of submission, and how that was used against her?
I mean, I would just want to ask, where does it say that? Where does it speak specifically in scripture to somebody, that anybody, woman or man, to submit to evil? And I know that is a lot of women's experience as well. But I just say, be a good Berean. Go back to the scriptures yourself and see what it says. I mean, that's all I did. I did it for a degree, but you can do it without. You don't have to go get a degree, and just go to the source. Go to the very sources, not the commentaries, although they're helpful. But do what you can to go to the sources. We have so much at our fingertips right now to be able to learn. With software, with ChatGPT, you can always double check what you're receiving from an AI source. Anything academic that you can read, that you can stomach, because some of it's not easy, like journal articles, it's what I did. And I will tell you, I did stay away from the more popular level books on this topic, because I didn't want them to influence how I was thinking when I went to the scripture. But the interesting thing is, when I walked away from being done with my dissertation, I found hundreds of people who were saying the same thing I was, having gone to the source themselves.
Wow. So, what is one thing you really want women to walk away with when they come to your session?
It's not what you've learned. It's just,
Okay.
yeah, it's just not what you've learned. And I guess that's what made me feel like I've been freed from the oppression of living under that thumb.
Mhm.
Now, I will tell you, I'm still in a learning process for what does it look like on a daily basis, practically speaking, with my husband. Um, so I guess the biggest learning is, or the biggest thing I'd want him to take away is just that freedom. I really want women to be free. So, and it's freedom within God's framework. It's not a freedom from, it's a freedom within. Um, yeah. With,
Wow.
yeah.
So I guess my question for you too, I'm thinking of the women that are still maybe watching this, maybe feeling a little bit of anxiety. So the woman that comes to your session and maybe her husband is using or past has used submission to say, basically you have no voice, you have no autonomy, you have no ability to make any choices on your own. What do you want her to know that she will learn from this session? What do you think how do you think her mindset is going to shift and change?
Hmm. Well, my whole dissertation started with God. Um, and so building up the image of God in woman begins with looking at God. If we want to know what God's image looks like for us in particular, for our female gender, we have to start with God. Now, that's as opposed to having started with all the passages that just mention submission, right? We're going to start by looking at who is God, who has he said he is from the beginning. If you want to even do what does he say about himself throughout all of Scripture, please do that, because that's going to inform who you are. That's who God says you are. You are his image bearer.
Yes.
And so that's foundational for even anything else, for all of the instructions that we might look at for women or men, because they are also image bearers. And so, how do we, as image bearers, read the scriptures that talk about submission?
Wow, I really like that. I'm like, I really want to learn about this. This sounds really amazing. And the fact that you've done so much work on this. So this will be great. And this is not your first retreat, right? Or is it?
No, but speaking wise, it was a long time ago. And I will say that I am continually learning, but I would even say don't read what I've read or what I wrote maybe 4 years ago when I was there. But I've also come few times and helped with volunteering. So yeah, I've been there. It's a great retreat. Yes.
Yes. So what would you say to a woman that's sitting on the fence today trying to decide if she could come to this retreat or should she not? What would you say to her?
Why not? Just come. I mean, so much, and your audience is in this camp, but so many women who have been in abusive situations, any kind of abusive situation, healing takes place in community. And what a better community to spend your time in for a weekend and find some of that healing than people who know what you're talking about, know what you've lived, and if not fully, at least in part. I mean, there is such refreshment, such invigoration in being in community with those who actually know to promote your healing journey. And so I'd say just, there's there's no reason not to come. So,
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you wanted to share that I didn't get a chance to ask you about?
maybe just another teaser of, if maybe I'm sounding too academic in how this is all going to come out, but I'm just giving you the academic background of what we're going to learn, and I promise I'll make it much more approachable. But if Paul were to give us one image of what to look at, I mean, we use the Trinity so often for how to think about submission, but if Paul were to give us one image, what would it be? And so I want to hear from you when you come to the retreat and you come to my session. I want to hear what you come up with. What one image would he have given to think about when you think about submission?
I'm already thinking about that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm excited to see you at the retreat, and I appreciate your time here. And we will see you in April 30th. So it's going to be a great time. You can register. There are spots left, but it is definitely filling up. So go ahead and get signed up and come here, Ann Maree, talk about this. And we'll be introducing more speakers as we go through our time here till the retreat. So
Mhm.
thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And look forward to it too.